Hi chaps, I'm back in the man cave. I know I'm hopeless. People talk to me about these and they make me inspired to do another one, so I'm doing another one. I'm kind of going to base this one on a very topical thing that's going on at the moment, of course, again, unfortunately, in the United States, which is to do with the murder of George Floyd. Now, I know a lot of you are outraged. I am. Okay, I'm not on this going to spill that outrage into this video. But I am seeing a lot of people on social media struggling with the notion of institutionalized racism, okay, or systematic or systemic racism, right? Where racism seems to be built into institutions, and we can't really believe that. It's almost like that's impossible. Surely it's just one cop. Surely it's an isolated incident, but indeed it's not, is it? Otherwise it wouldn't keep happening over and over and over again. It's an inbuilt institutionalized racism. And would you believe that happened in our own acting world as well? Okay, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about that today. And in doing that, I'm going to illuminate the world of the commedia dell'arte for you, which is one of our closest traditions and the formations of a lot of our plays, films, and theatre and TV today. All right. So in this, again, it's an acting lesson, not a sort of a racial rant, right? It's an acting lesson. So this might resonate with you, especially to do with the world of archetypes and how you can perhaps pursue the perfection or the perfecting of your own archetype as an actor as well, and how those archetypes change as you get older. All right. Okay, so let's get into it, right? So the commedia dell'arte was an Italian tradition of theatre that dated back to about 600 years ago, all right? So we think it evolved. So it's a bit hard to say exactly where it started. It evolved and changed over the course of, a number of hundred years. Racism in theatre and racism in society dates right back to ancient Rome, okay, and earlier. There's evidence of it in ancient Greece as well. There were black people in Africa of African origin all through Europe since the Roman Empire, settling some slaves, but also settled free people as well. Okay, now in the commedia dell'arte, which cropped up, as I said, about 600 years ago, what you had is a set of stock characters or archetypes which were borrowed from society, the way society had developed, all right? So the central core character in the commedia, where has he gone? He's always hiding from me because that's his nature, all right, is Harlequin, all right? Or Arlecchino in the Italian, but this spread throughout Europe and the French loved it. Molière used the commedia a lot, and so did Shakespeare. But the central character was Harlequin or Arlecchino. As you can see, it's a black mask. Traditionally, an escaped black slave, kind of reaping his revenge on society, but it's a comedy. So he's not going to kill anybody, but he is going to make fools of the rich white people around him, all right? He has a bump on his head, all right? Why? Because it was given to him by the Capitano, who is a cop. That's how far back this stuff goes, would you believe? All right? So you've got a cop and you've got a black guy, and in the middle of that is hilarity, all right? Now, of course, back in this time, this was all a bit of fun, right? Because everybody kind of, for the most part, understood that that's what we call an archetype, right? That there are, escaped black slaves in the society who, might try and steal from you, all right? Or might try and, take your wife away from you or something like that, right? But it's an archetype. It's only when that turns into a stereotype where people start subconsciously saying, all black people are like this, thieves, right? That's when it turns into a stereotype, and that's where racism becomes institutionalized. And that happened right through the performing arts, and it happened right through society, dating as far back as ancient Rome and beyond, all right? Okay, so why do we hate, all right? Now, again, I don't want to sort of lecture here by any means, but I'm sure that we'll all agree that hatred, for the most part, comes from fear, okay? Fear, and probably the second one is really jealousy, yeah? So if we're afraid that someone's going to take our stuff, right? If we're afraid that someone's going to take our girlfriend or our boyfriend or our wife away from us, we feel this sense of rage and toxic stuff starts to build up, and it's a hatred, okay? hatred then towards a large group of people, right, who you are painting all with the same brush, becomes racism, right, or a prejudice of some sort, okay? There's another archetype in the Commedia, which is Pantalone, okay? Pantalone is your Jewish miser, yeah? Again, an archetype. Yes, there were, Jewish people who were very good with money. They were money lenders, right through the centuries. Very good with money. It was a skill that they had, right? But not all of them were money lenders, right? So it's an archetype. It exists in society. It is true, but it's archetypal. To then say that all Jews are money lenders, and in fact go further, all Jews are sort of scabby money lenders that are actually going to try and rip you off, that's a stereotype. That's a prejudice, okay? Now, Shakespeare was very smart. He knew this, and of course, in The Merchant of Venice, you have a Pantalone, right, which is that one there, Pantalone, the Jewish miser. I'll pull him out again, sorry. In Shylock, right? And he has that wonderful, wonderful speech where he says, hang on a second, right? If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? Are we not exactly the same as you? And Shakespeare actually exposes the archetype and the stereotype, right? And what that means, what the two different things actually are, okay? So these were borrowed by Shakespeare. They were borrowed by, and there's many others. They were borrowed by Molière, of course, very famously, right? But they're still borrowed even to this very day, all right? So I want you to think about, I always use The Simpsons as an example, okay? Because you can apply this to any comedy, any modern comedy as well. In The Simpsons, you have a mischief maker who's at the core of that show, okay? You have it in every comedy, but let's just use The Simpsons as an example. In The Simpsons, you have a harlequin, all right? And your harlequin is Bart, okay? So take the racial aspect of it away, but Bart is your mischief maker. He's always provoking the comedy, provoking the action, okay? You also have in the Commedia a very rich old man with a kind of a hook-shaped nose called Mr. Burns, okay? He's your Pantalone, all right? You have a cop. Where is he? He's gone. There he is. You have a cop, okay? The Capitano, who is also, as well as bopping, Harlequin over the head, he's an idiot. It's like putting the village idiot in charge. That's your Capitano. You have Chief Wiggin, right, in The Simpsons, yeah? And the list goes on and on. These are called half masks because the mouth is free for the voice to come out. The Doctore, or the doctor, had a quarter mask, okay? So there's your quarter mask, right? That's the doctor. And the doctor, of course, is also an idiot because he's hilarious, right? Hi, I'm Dr. Nick. That was really bad, but that's the idea, right? So Dr. Nick is, a quack doctor who doesn't know what he's doing. Traditionally, in the Commedia, he would always have one solution to every ailment that anyone had, which was an enema, colonic irrigation up the butt. But it wasn't just a normal one, it would be the size of a baseball bat, right? Of course, because it's the Commedia dell'arte. So these companies traveled from town to town and they performed outdoors and they entertained. They didn't have scripts, they improvised, but they did have what was called the argument, which was this happens, this happens, this happens, then eventually we're going to have to get there somehow at the end. But in all that, we're just going to play, muck around with the audience, see what they respond to, right? And you had these archetypal characters, these stock characters that I'm just explaining there. Now, the actors who played them had to be specifically skilled at the actual character that they were playing. Most of them required high athleticism, okay? But Harlequin was short and stocky, right? Required a short and stocky actor for the most part, yeah? Pantalone was very old with long, spindly limbs and fingers. Needed an actor who had those attributes, okay? The Doctore was very fast, was just trying to cover up the fact that he doesn't know anything, and you needed an actor with huge energy to do that, okay? You're probably asking, what about the women? Okay, well, the male characters apply to female actors or actresses as well, okay? So you can ask yourself, what's my body type? What kind of archetypal character in the Commedia might suit me? The women were not as fleshed out, okay? So the gender discussion is for another day, but again, this goes right through, even to today. Where roles are written for women that are basically based on the way they react to men, and we all know where those problems lie. The same thing is happening, obviously, with race, you know, in Hollywood as well, okay? But the women were basically speaking, put into kind of two groups. The Inamorata, who was this incredibly powerful, very beautiful, very strong woman, right? In The Simpsons, it's Marge and Lisa. Both of them are infinitely more intelligent than probably all of the male characters combined. And then, of course, you had the really stupid female characters as well, right? Sometimes called Francesca or Columbina. Again, these changed and evolved over the years, so you can't kind of nail these down too much. But they would be a kind of, to put it diplomatically, a kind of roll in the hay kind of wench, right? Not particularly smart. Have a look at As You Like It, the character of Phoebe in As You Like It. By Shakespeare, and you can also see these in modern comedies as well. Phoebe in Friends, you know, same kind of idea. Not necessarily the roll in the hay idea, but not much going on up there, right? And of course, great fun. Okay, so I thought that might be of interest. You've learned a little bit, hopefully, about the commedia dell'arte, about the way that the masks work with those, okay? And perhaps a little bit, if in this short video, I can't make these long, obviously, about archetype. What's your type? What does your body lend to when you're thinking about playing certain characters? And how might you transform away from your archetype to play other characters? And I hope that that kind of does also illuminate to some extent the racism that, again, can so easily be institutionalized in even something like the performing arts and acting, let alone a justice system, a law system, media, government, yeah? And that's, unfortunately, what's happened in the United States, and they have a lot of work to do to change that, and it's going to have to come through a long system of re-education, I think, is the only way that it can happen, you know, aside from an armed uprising, which nobody wants, but you know, it's going to have to change one way or the other. Anyway, guys, I will stop because I'm well over the 10-minute mark. If you have any further questions on that, if you would like a session with me one-to-one online, you are very welcome. I'm still doing them, and I'm really enjoying them, and I'm going to keep doing them even after this lockdown finishes because they're just great. I get so much out of them myself, and they're so personalized. I can really help to guide people in a very personal kind of diagnostic way with their acting, which I'm really enjoying too. It's very rewarding for me as a teacher, all right? Okay, guys, yeah, I'll chat to you soon. If you want to look at the other Man Cave of an Acting Teacher videos, they're all on YouTube. Just look them up on there. Enjoy this beautiful summer that we're having in Lockdown Island, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.